2 days ago, Mr. Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan District Attorney, he filed an urgent request to enter a restraining order against Congressman Jim Jordan. But on that very same day, on the same day that he filed his request, the court rejected it. However, in order to explain what this all means, I need to take a quick moment to give you the broader context of what's going on here. And I hope that if you appreciate content like this, you take a quick moment yourself to smash those like and subscribe buttons, which quite literally forces the YouTube algorithm to share this video out to ever more people. Now, on February 7th of this year, a Manhattan prosecutor named Mark Pomerantz, he published a book titled People versus Donald Trump. And in that book, he detailed both his investigation into the Trump Organization as well as the decision by the Manhattan District Attorney to not indict President Trump. Here's a brief summary of the book that you can find yourself over on Amazon.com. Quote, People versus Donald Trump is a fascinating inside account of the attempt to prosecute former President Donald Trump, written by one of the lawyers who worked on the case and resigned in protest when Manhattan's district attorney refused to act. Pomerantz investigated the world of Donald Trump and the Trump Organization. He interviewed potential witnesses, scrutinized financial records, and learned everything he could about Trump's business practices. Ultimately, Pomerantz gathered enough evidence to support the view held by many of his colleagues on the case, including former Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr., that former President Donald Trump should be indicted for a number of financial crimes. But that indictment never happened. This book explains why. And so, as you can tell from that description, this former Manhattan prosecutor, he had detailed inside knowledge about the inner workings of the Manhattan DA's office in regards to the Trump Organization. He knew exactly what was happening behind closed doors. Pomerantz was one of the lead researchers in the case, as well as a critic of the DA for not actually going ahead with the indictment. However, as we all know, on March 30th of this year, President Trump was in fact officially indicted by a Manhattan grand jury. Then, a few days later, on April 4th, President Trump was arraigned at the courthouse and pled not guilty to 34 counts of bookkeeping fraud. However, this sudden change in direction, from refusing to indict President Trump to indicting him, well, it drew attention of Republican members of Congress. And so, on April 6th, the current chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Mr. Jim Jordan, he issued an official subpoena to Mr. Mark Pomerantz, ordering him to come to Washington and testify before Congress. Here is what the subpoena says in relevant part. Quote, Based on your unique role as a special assistant district attorney leading the investigation into President Trump's finances, you are uniquely situated to provide information that is relevant and necessary to inform the committee's oversight and potential legislative reforms. Although you claim that you were able to put aside your personal feelings about President Trump during the investigation, the depth of your personal animosity towards him is apparent in your writing. You wrote of President Trump, and this is a quote from his book, quote, I saw him as a malignant narcissist and perhaps even a megalomaniac who posed a real danger to the country and the ideals that matter to me. His behavior made me angry, sad, and even disgusted. Then Jim Jordan concludes the letter with a subpoena and this, quote, These perceptions appear to have colored your work as a special assistant district attorney, to the point that you even resigned because the investigation into President Trump was not proceeding fast enough for your liking. In your resignation letter, you prejudged the results of the district attorney's investigation, writing that, quote, Donald Trump is guilty of numerous felony violations, and vowing not to be a passive participant to a grave failure of justice. Your public resignation reportedly left District Attorney Bragg deeply stung and caused him to issue an unusual public statement emphasizing that the investigation into Trump and his business was far from over. Your book also contributed to the political pressure on District Attorney Bragg to bring charges against former President Trump. And to that end, Mark Pomerantz was ordered to appear before a congressional committee to answer questions regarding both the investigation into President Trump and his finances, as well as the internal debates inside of the Manhattan DA's office that were taking place behind closed doors. The stated reason for this congressional hearing was so that the House Judiciary Committee could audit what happened, determine whether it was politically motivated or not, and if they determined that it was politically motivated, to set up new guardrails to avoid such a thing happening again in the future. Here's how Jim Jordan described the need for this particular hearing. Quote, Congress has a specific and manifestly important interest in preventing politically motivated prosecutions of current and former presidents by elected state and local prosecutors, particularly in jurisdictions like New York County, where the prosecutor is popularly elected and trial-level judges lack life tenure. Among other things, if state or local prosecutors are able to engage in politically motivated prosecutions of presidents of the United States, current or former, for personal acts, this could have a profound impact on how presidents choose to exercise their powers while in office. For example, a president could choose to avoid taking action he believes to be in the national interest because it would negatively impact New York City, for fear that he would be subject to a retaliatory prosecution in New York City. As a result, the New York County District Attorney's unprecedented prosecutorial conduct requires oversight to inform the consideration of potential legislative reforms that would, if enacted, insulate current and former presidents from such politically motivated state and local prosecutions. However, as you can imagine, the current Manhattan District Attorney, Mr. Alvin Bragg, he wasn't too keen about having one of his former prosecutors be questioned by Congress. And as such, on Monday, April 11th, which is exactly 2 days ago today, Mr. Bragg filed a new lawsuit against Jim Jordan, saying that since he is a county district attorney, and that since the charges against President Trump are state charges, Congress doesn't actually have the authority to conduct such oversight. Here's specifically what, at least part of what Alvin Bragg wrote in his lawsuit against Mr. Jim Jordan. Quote, Jordan claims he's seeking to conduct oversight, but he has no power under the Constitution to oversee state and local criminal matters. By definition, then, he has no legitimate legislative purpose for issuing the subpoena. The subpoena threatens the sovereign powers of the states, confidence in the secrecy of grand jury proceedings, and the integrity of an ongoing criminal prosecution. This court should enjoin its enforcement. And as such, alongside his lawsuit against Jim Jordan, Mr. Alvin Bragg also submitted an urgent request to the court in order to get a restraining order against Congressman Jim Jordan, which would effectively prevent him from being able to question the former prosecutor, Mr. Mark Pomerantz, under oath. However, the judge in the case, who was ironically appointed to the bench by President Trump himself, she denied the request. She turned down Mr. Alvin Bragg's emergency request for a temporary restraining order, at least until a hearing can be held. Here was part of her order. Quote, the court declines to enter the proposed temporary restraining order. That's pretty to the point. She then went ahead and scheduled a hearing for April 19th, wherein Mr. Jim Jordan can respond to the motion against him. Meaning, in plain English, that while this lawsuit is working its way through the courts, at the moment at least, as it stands, Jim Jordan can still force the former Manhattan DA prosecutor to testify before Congress under oath. Furthermore, while the Manhattan DA is claiming that Congress is overstepping their authority by investigating his office, well, Jim Jordan issued his own statement regarding this case, regarding this new lawsuit that was brought against him by the Manhattan DA. Here's what he said shortly after the lawsuit was filed. Quote, they're obstructing our investigation. We have a constitutional duty to get to the facts, particularly when you have a district attorney interfering with the most important election we have, which is the election of the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States. First, they indict a president for no crime. Then, they sue to block congressional oversight when we ask questions about the federal funds they say they used to do it. Furthermore, Alvin Bragg takes us to court because we want to talk to someone who left the DA's office a year ago, who went out and wrote a book on this very subject. And so that is where this case currently stands. In terms of when this congressional hearing will take place, at the moment that's not exactly clear. The only thing that is clear is that on April 19th, which is next Wednesday, there will be a hearing in this case between Alvin Bragg and Jim Jordan, wherein the judge will listen to the defendants and decide on what to do next. Until then, if you'd like to go deeper into this particular case, I'll throw all my research notes, including the PDFs of all the documents, into the description box below. And then lastly, right now, as the rate of inflation, the banking crisis, and a myriad of other problems are quite literally pushing the price of gold to new highs, well, I'd like to introduce the sponsor of today's episode, which is an awesome company that actually sold me this beautiful gold coin. This right here is an American Walking Liberty 1-ounce gold coin. And typically, I order at least one of these from our sponsor, American Hartford Gold, every single month. The reason I do so is because, as you likely know, the inflation rate in this country is the highest that has been in, the last 40 years now. Everything like the price of food, the price of housing, the price of gas is absolutely going through the roof. And in fact, market experts like the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, he's not only predicting a recession, but he's even using words like unprecedented economic hurricane. And so listen, I absolutely do not give you any financial advice, but I would recommend that you do what I do, which is pick up the phone and call American Hartford Gold. Their super friendly staff can help you diversify your portfolio by either getting physical gold and physical silver delivered directly to your doorstep like I do, or deposited directly into your IRA and your 401k accounts. They make the entire process super simple. And actually, besides me, they have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau with quite literally thousands of satisfied clients around the country.
And best of all, to our viewers, to the viewers of Facts Matter, they are currently throwing in $2,500 worth of free silver on your first qualifying order. So giving them a call is an absolute no-brainer. So pick up the phone and call 866-242-2352. That's 866-242-2352. Or text Roman to 65532. Their link will also be down in the description box below. And then let's head on back to the studio.
And then lastly, as I mentioned in yesterday's episode as well, over on Epic TV, I just published an awesome interview between myself and Dr. Robert Malone, talking about some of the methods that he's discovered to do spike protein detox. Now, obviously, that type of a topic is not really welcome here on YouTube with their regime of censorship. In fact, I don't even feel comfortable showing you the trailer for that episode. Otherwise, this whole video might get taken down like that. And so if you'd like to check out that awesome interview between myself and Dr. Robert Malone, well, we published it over on Epic TV, our no censorship video platform. The link will be right there at the very top of the description box. All you have to do is click on it, and it'll take you directly to the interview where you can watch it right away on an awesome platform that doesn't censor. Again, the link will be right there at the very top of the description box. And then until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epic Times. Stay informed, and most importantly, stay free.